Today I'm on a Fox Tango 950, outputting 45 watts into an ALS 1306 amp. It's producing 1200, and the antenna's a heck. It's only 29 feet in the air. Nice day, a little chilly yet. It's supposed to get up to about 72, but right now it's only 49 degrees. King Charlie 9 Victor, King Victor, AE8O, over.
Roger, Roger. Well, you do have the altitude. I wouldn't think you would need much of a tower due to the fact that you're almost a mile in the air and that amp is sounding good. We're running an older Yaesu 990 into a SB220 and then into a dipole that we've just been working on recently, and we got the SWR down to about a 1.05 to 1, somewhere in there. Roger, Roger.
Oh, Roger, yeah. I'm certainly doing a good job. You actually came up that time by another S unit, so you're up to 5.8. I also have an SB220 that I use with my other radio, which is an ICOM 756 Pro 3. So it's kind of a small HF station here, just 2 HF rigs and a pair of HF amplifiers. The ALS 1306 I think I've had now for maybe 5 months, something like that. And I've been pleased with it. I've got it cabled up right, so, you know, when I change bands on the radio, the amp follows right along. I don't have to do anything to it. And for a change, it operates just as they advertise that it should. Unlike the MFJ auto tuner, the 998, it's a little bit of false advertising going on, claiming that it has a peak envelope power reading meter. What they don't tell you is it reads peak power only if you've got a carrier. And I wouldn't actually call that an envelope. You know, when you talk peak envelope power to me, you're talking either sideband or you're talking AM modulated 100%, and then there is an envelope. But I don't think there's an envelope per se if you just got a carrier. So, a little disappointed, but it works, you know, it works. It didn't cost a ton of money, but still, I think they ought to change their advertising or upgrade the software if it's possible, so the thing actually reads as a true peak envelope power reading meter. Fortunately, there's one in the amplifier, and it does read, and it's very, very accurate, so we're all good to go there. And they advertise the amp being driven 100 watts. Really? At 45 watts here, occasionally I hit 1,400 watts out. Less on other bands than 20, the thing really kicks, you know. But with the same drive, if I would go on 17, it would probably show about 1,000 to 1,100 rather than what it's showing here on 20. But I just leave everything at 45 watts. You get up 900, 1,000, who's going to see a couple of hundred more watts? King Charlie 9, Victor, King Victor, AE8O, over.
Roger, Roger. Well, you know, MFJ has a pattern of, shall we say, marketing ploys that they, you know, rate a lot of their stuff in dBi as opposed to dB, and you know, various and sundry things. I have one of their 989C older antenna tuners, and it's pretty good, except when it gets to the inductor coil, and they do things like they do solders like drive-bys, where the coil is just passing by an area, and they solder to the coil as it passes by, as opposed to making a direct run to the area and doing a couple of wraps, or at least one wrap around the area, and then soldering. So what happens is when you start running a little temperature there, that solder joint either pops off or discolors the solder, so it gets to be a dull roar, and you know that it's had to endure quite a bit of heat, and just be amazed that it didn't warp out of the connection. Roger, Roger.
Oh, Roger, yeah. I've got also an outboard tuner. It's the MFJ989. It is a Charlie. It's a 3 kilowatt roller inductor, and I've had it for decades. But the roller inductor eventually, it's rated at 3K. I'd never come close to running any kind of power like that. I don't have the ability to do it, and I wouldn't do it anyhow. But the first roller inductor finally gave up the ghost, so I got another one there from MFJ. Fortunately, it mounted in exactly the same mounting holes. The difference, it had a shaft on it that was several inches too long. So clearly, maybe on their new tuners, they mount the roller inductor further back in the cabinet. No big deal. I cut it off with a cutting wheel, and it works fine. The other thing with it, the peak envelope reading meter in it is so slow. I mean, it's lazy. It does not read peak envelope power. It's very slow to go up, and when I quit talking, it takes it a while before it goes back down to 0. And it really annoys me, but I don't know what to do about it. There's probably a capacitor in there somewhere that's controlling the sensitivity of that meter, but I don't know exactly which one it is, so I'm not fooling with it. I mean, I got other stuff here. First, the watt meter inside the Ameritron amplifier, and then I have an outboard WM1 computing watt meter, which agrees with the watt meter inside the amplifier. So I really don't need it, but still, it's just a point of annoyance, and it shouldn't be that way. KC9 Victor King Victor 880.
Roger, Roger. Well, the MFJ tuner that I was talking about is a 989C. So indeed, there is a small world out there, and I've had, that was the drive-by soldering situation I was talking about there, and I did solve that because that connection was towards the end of the inductor, and I'm not using, I wasn't using that far down, so I just took that turn and kind of bent it the other way, as opposed to going around in a circle, and bent it to the connection and wrapped it once and soldered it. So that took care of that. And on the 989C, there is a switch in the front, a push button switch that will switch from RMS to peak to peak, I believe.
Oh yeah, you're absolutely correct. And right now, it was 1,400 watts temporary. This amp put out. It'll put out more than the 1,200 watts. But anyway, that button is pushed in for peak power, and on that meter right now it's showing 700 watts. When I go back to average, it shows a little over 100. So, two meters here are showing, over 1,200 watts, and this one at best is showing 700 with it pushed in for peak power. So, I don't know. Maybe that happened over the course of time. I don't remember. I mean, I had the thing for a long, long time, but the roller inductor that was in there, I don't know if it warped or what it was doing, but it reached the point where it felt like there was gravel in the thing. And it was, at a certain point, it would seem like it lost its connection, and it was just a bad deal. So, it's working okay now, but then again, I don't really use it that much because I've got the auto tuner now. But The auto tuner here, like on my Carolina Wyndham antenna, which covers 6 through 75 meters, the auto tuner will not tune 75 meters because the SWR on the Wyndham is too high on 75. But the outboard 989C will tune it, so it still has a use for something. That's the good news. The other part of the news is I'm almost never on 75 meters because I'm basically a morning operator and not an evening operator, Robert.
Roger. Well, you can't win for losing sometimes. There is one other aspect of the 989C, and that is that the way it's mounted, the clearance underneath the inductor to the chassis is not very great. And sometimes you can have possibly an arc over from the bottom of the inductor coil to the chassis. And once that happens, it's likely that it will happen again because it builds kind of a charcoal fissure as it arced. So once it gets those little carbon deposits in the plastic, it's ready to go again. But I took the cover of a plastic CD cover. I took just the top plate, and it would just fit underneath the coil at that point. And so I have some insulation there, by that plastic, and it's never arced since then. But like I say, once it starts arcing, you can rest assured that that's that's going to continue on. So, but other than that, I love the 989C. It really does a good job. The problem I think you were having on the about the tuning and the kind of rough tuning possibly could be arc burns on the inductor coil, and they will leave little again charcoal burns on the coil, and you have to actually take a burnishing tool and clean those off, or depending on how severe they are, I think there's a possibility of turning the coil around to the other end and mounting it 180 degrees from what it was, and that will at least put new areas for you to burn on the inductor coil. Roger,
yeah. But it's fine now with the new inductor in it, but the old one there, not so good. And you're right about the carbon tracing. And the same thing is true with variable capacitors. And I ended up with that problem with an amp I used to have, a Dentron amplifier that had 4572Bs. And for whatever reason, it arced over one day. I forget whether it was the tune or the low capacitor, it really doesn't matter. It did arc over. And kind of that, once that happens, like you said, it's tough. And on a capacitor, it kind of roughs up, and I go in there, I file it, and try and polish it up and all that. I put, what do they call it? They used to sell it for TVs. It's for arcing. It's kind of a blue, messy stuff, I tried that. That didn't work. I tried fingernail polish, that didn't work. I tried lacquer. Once those capacitors arc over like that, it's really difficult, maybe some guys can do it, but I did the best I could, but I never was really able to get that thing so that it was completely free of arcing over. And some of that, of course, comes, although I don't do it, but other guys, try and adjust their SWR in their tuners by feeding it 100 watts, and if the thing is really out of resonant, well, then you got a good chance to arc over. So, of course, the name of the game, if you got an amplifier that needs to be adjusted, You know, feed it 10 watts and get close to the resonance, and then increase the thing. And if you have to touch it up just a wee bit, you're going to be close enough that it's probably not going to arc. KC9 Victor, King Victor, 8O.
Roger, could you come back one more time with your call, slowly, phonetically?
Yeah, Alpha, Echo, 8, Oscar. Again, Alpha, Echo, 8, Oscar. Yeah, call FCC gave me back in 1978 when I finally flunked my way to the top, and that's what they sent me. It's a tongue twister, over.
Roger, you got to pay attention on it for sure. You cannot have a loose tongue. It's a good call sign, though. What's the name again?
The name is Tom, over.
Roger, Tom. Well, you know, like I say, that 989C is, you know, it's a good unit. I don't think it's actually going to hit 3 kW. Maybe 1.5 on a good day, Roger.
Roger, yeah, I think they, you know, they kind of stretched it a bit there. So, one thing I didn't like about it was that I believe it's, I can't remember, it's 200 or 300 ohm resistor that's in there. I actually, what I did is I mounted another coax connector on the base of the tuner, and I got rid of that thing. And so now it has an outboard coax connector on it, and that's where I have my original Heathkit Cantina dummy load hooked on that. So that thing is gone. I mean, what good? Why would they do that? It's supposedly a 3K tuner, and then they put a resistor in there that'll handle 200 or 300 watts. It doesn't make sense in my mind. But, you know, I can see why they wouldn't put a full legal limit one in there. They'd probably have to put a blower in it or something like that. And maybe it'd only be good for, you know, 10 seconds, whatever. But I've had that cantina since 1976. And so why not use it instead of that little one that's inside the tuner? And that worked out a lot better for me. I can touch up my amplifier running it right into a dummy load, over.
Oh, Roger, Roger. Yeah, it's a good thing there. I use the 989C as in position 1. I have my 80-meter dipole, and I run through the tuner for that because it's not right by itself, and the tuner makes it perfect, you know. And then I go to bypass on the number 2 position, and then feed a 6-position rotary switch where I have all the other antennas, and those antennas are like I say, 1.01 to 1 on all the other bands. So you know, I just go to bypass to pick up the other ones, Roger.
Oh, Roger, yeah. And actually, I use my outboard toner here for a coax switch. And so in position number 1, coax direct, that's the hex beam. 2, coax direct, that's the Wyndham antenna. And where it says dummy load is the Heathkit Cantina. And then, of course, up at 1 and 2 up on the top where it says antenna selector, that's going to engage the tuner itself. The balanced wire line, there's no antenna on that whatsoever, so that position is open. Go ahead.
Oh, Roger that. Yeah, I was trying to figure out, I was thinking about doing away with that 300 ohm part and using that as an output, you know, RF output position. But then I got to thinking about it. I said I only need one. I pick up a rotary selector switch and pick up the others. So it just worked out real well. And we've kind of been working on a formula for dipole tuning, in that we're running unbalanced dipoles. And on the ground side of the dipole, we use that for SWR adjustment. and on the high side of the dipole we use that for frequency adjustment. So as we're working on a band, we have a frequency that we're looking for in the middle of the band, and so we try to maintain the frequency and then on the other side keep reducing the SWR. Of course, as you make shifts in the that ground element or ground dipole part, it's going to shift the frequency. So you go back and forth, but always, on the one side adjusting the SWR to minimum, and on the other side maintaining your frequency. And it works out real well, man. You can just walk them right down. Like I say, I've got a couple that are 1.01 to 1s, Roger.
Oh, Roger, yeah, very, very good. Yeah. Well, the deal with my hex beam is, it, of course, is resonant on just about all the bands, or close to resonant, other than 6 meters. And on 6 meters, it goes up to about 1.9 to 1, which is out of the range of what this amplifier, the solid-state amplifier, will not deal with that, It does cover 6 meters, but it'll default. You get up about 1.7 to 1 and you're really iffy, At 1.6 to 1, you're good, but 1.7 to 1, might default, it might not. Fortunately, the protection circuits in this amplifier is really quite incredible. I mean, I tried to transmit on a no antenna the other day, and it immediately goes into standby, and the SWR light pops up on the thing. Well, all you got to do is roll the operate switch from operate standby right back, and you're back in business. But and then the auto tuner will not tune 6 meters, and neither will the outboard MFJ989C. So the deal is, if I'm going to operate on 6 meters, fortunately 6 is resonant on the Wyndham, and 40 is pretty close to resonance too. So if I want to work 6, I got to work with power. If I want to work 6 with power, I have to use the Wyndham. If I just want to use 100 watts, well then, yeah, I could use the hex, and a rig tuner actually will pull it in, but this auto tuner, not going to cover 6. And on 75 meters, as I mentioned, I have to use the other outboard tuner as well. The auto tuner here just doesn't like it. I've tried it several times, and it grinds around, but in the end, it doesn't get anywhere. As soon as you hit the key, the thing immediately defaults. So, but between the two systems here, I can do whatever I want to do from 6 all the way to 160. So it's not that big a deal, but it would have been cool if the auto tuner would have had the capacity to, be able to resonate 75 meters. But the SWR on it's like 1.5, not 1.5 to 1. It's like 5 to 1, and the tuner don't like it. KC9 Victor King Victor, and by the way, Jim, you're pushing 5.9 now. This is AE8O, over.
Roger, Tom. Usually those internal auto tuners in the radios would do at least a 3, I thought, SWR, and the outboard ones would do like a 5. That's what I understood, but I guess not. That's the thing. If you have a 3, your internal antenna tuner is not going to do that usually. But you're saying that your internal radio tuner doesn't want to tune even like maybe a 2, or where's the position again on that?
Yeah, the internal tuner in the Fox Tango 950 will not tune it. But now, of course, it can't anyway, because the button on the radio that says tune is actually controlling the auto tuner, not the tuner in the radio. But the other radio here, the ICOM 756 Pro 3, the built-in tuner in that radio will tune it over.
Roger that. Roger that. Well, I guess you know, each radio is an individual thing, you know, and again, does the owner's manual say that it will handle a 3?
Oh, you know, I don't know. I suppose I'm one of those guys that I'll read a manual as a last resort over.
Yeah, I've got a couple of Kenwood radios that are sitting there because, well, I guess it's a failure to read the book, and the radio design is not very intuitive. These are VHF radios. Unlike Yaesu VHF radios, where they are so intuitive, it's just unbelievably simple to program. Those are frequency and PO-wise, you know, but that one, man, that just I couldn't handle it, you know. I mean, normally, you know, you would have a owner's manual that about the second or third page, you would have pictures of the front of the radio and little arrows and saying what they are, and then 2 or 3 pages on past that, you'll have a picture of the back of the radio and little arrows saying what they do. Well, not this radio, not this manual.
Oh, really? Huh. I think I got that on both radios. Now, the menu in the Pro 3 is very, very simple and very, very easy to do. Now, there's aspects of both of these radios I know nothing about. And that is the memories for different frequencies. I have no use for it because I don't go to any particular frequency at any time that I need to have it in a memory, you know, so I don't know anything about that. What is set up is the transmit bandwidth, the receive bandwidth, that sort of thing, and the rest is pretty self-explanatory. I mean, it's labeled right there on the buttons on the Pro 3. Very easy radio to operate. I like it a lot. Now this Fox Tango 950, the menu, I found it to be daunting. I mean, there's like 150 items in the menu, and some of it is stuff I don't know what they're talking about, and I really didn't have an interest in finding out, and I didn't want to mess with it, so I just skipped it. So it's set up, well, it's set up to my filter, that is noise reduction. I've got that set at a certain level, you know. And the parametric equalizer that's in it, which I'm using, and that drove me crazy for a couple of months because it was so different than what I was used to. On my other radio, I used a W2Y 8-band equalizer noise gate. It's slide switches. You know exactly what you're doing. The parametric equalizer was a different animal, and it took me a while to get used to it, you know. So, other than that, I didn't mess with, you know, a lot of the stuff that's in this radio because I was afraid I was going to diminish the quality of the radio itself. The one other thing I did, there's what they call a contrast control. Really what it is kind of an audio filter. And you can set how wide it is and what the gain is and all that. Well, Beckcom defaulted to be actually more of a notch, but it's changeable in the menu, and you can turn it from a notch into a peak. And that's the way I got it. And boy, that really comes in handy on some of the really weak signals. It boosts their audio a little. It narrows the bandwidth at the same time. And in some circumstances, it'll allow you to hear somebody when, if you didn't have that control, you wouldn't be able to do it. KC9 Victor King Victor AE8O.
Roger, Tom. Well, I think you've got it adjusted just about perfect. Your audio is very nice and intelligible, you know, and cuts through. You know, we've had a couple of fades, and I've been able to maintain your audio right through the fade because your modulation is very good. We have a YouTube page, called Jim Ferguson's Radio Story, where we celebrate 50 years of commercial broadcasting. And we've just started a recent new segment to that. It's called QS0-VLOG. QS0-VLOG, and that's all about amateur radio. We have about 90 QS0-VLOGs in the list right now, and I have been recording the audio-video of this QSO, and probably will post it there tomorrow sometime if you'd like to drop by and take a listen to your station. Just go to YouTube and do a call letter search, Kilo Charlie 9 Victor Kilo Victor, and that'll take you right to the QS0-VLOG page. And right at the top will be a segment that has a list of all the QS0-VLOGs. Right at the top, first one would be Art Bell, and then the others are pretty much sequential below that. And so like I say, I'll probably try to post this for tomorrow. But anyway, if you get a chance, drop by on the YouTube page, Roger.
Oh, Roger, yeah. Yeah, that sounds pretty cool. I wrote that down, YouTube and your call sign. So, of course, I got a YouTube app on my television, and occasionally go there, you know. Some of the places, of course, are starting to put their advertising up. I guess that was unavoidable. You can't go anywhere this day, in this day and age, unless there's going to be advertising, you know. Whether it's radio, whether it's your TV, or just driving down the road, you're hit with advertising continually. And boy, I got, after satellite TV and HBO and Amazon, which I'm a member of, a Prime member in Amazon, and YouTube and some other apps where the movies are actually free. I just can't tolerate commercials anymore. It's just gotten so pathetic. I bet it's 50-50 now. 50% of the time is a commercial and the rest is broadcasting. And what really gets me is like you're watching the news, you know, CNN or MSNBC, and they go to a rash of commercials, about 4 minutes of commercials. They break back to the news station for 15 seconds, and then go right back for another 4 or 5 minutes of news or commercials. And well, I'll tell you, that just twists my tail. So I try and eliminate as many commercials as I possibly can, and I definitely make use of the recorder that's built into my satellite system, and it does a real good job. And so as far as the commercial TV goes, I record it, then I fast forward through the commercial. KC9VKV 8E8O.
Roger, that's pretty much the way we do also. And that Amazon is really a nice service. I forget what you call that, but we use it also. And on the TV YouTube, you just get the video, whereas I usually write a lot of times a 500-word piece about you know, the QSO or some tech talk or something with it. But I've been processing a bunch of segments here lately, and so my writing has kind of taken a back seat. Matter of fact, I didn't even think I would be doing a QSO on our conversation. I was actually doing a little test because I did some massive rewiring of the system for the past 2 days, and so I was just kind of checking it out. It seems to be working now. I had no guarantees because I could be off sync audio to video. That's happened before, so you know, my anticipation is now that I will do a piece on it, but like I say, we got been working on the audio segments and trying to get it crystal clear. We go direct from the receiver audio, so there's minimum discoloration of incoming audio, Roger.
Oh, Roger, yeah. I just glanced over my pan display here. I've got this device on the 950. You probably know about them, a dongle, called a dongle. And I stumbled on it on eBay some time ago. And they were claiming, oh, you get this device and you're going to get a real-time pan display, you know. Well, they were right. And you get some other features, too. Like I also have an incoming audio frequency display with both that and the real-time pan display have waterfalls on it. And it looks great on my 24-inch monitor here. Turn this radio into an SDR radio. I can really control the whole thing with a mouse if I want to. You have to run Ham Radio Deluxe with it as well. And Ham Radio Deluxe has a bunch of slide switches and stuff that you can move with your mouse. And, you know, it's really adjusting a lot of things. I could do it right there if I wanted to. But some things are more convenient just to, you know, physically do it on the radio, like the volume control. And all these other things, the shift, the width, the contrast notch, and a clear button. Very cool. Anyway, I said all that and got a little wordy just to say it looks to me like you're running a transmit bandwidth of about maybe slightly below 100 cycles and about 3K on the top. Is that about right, over?
Roger. This is a 2.4 radio, but our, you know, if you pre-EQ sharper than the roll-off, then you can extend the bandpass audio-wise on out. So that's what we're doing here. The radio is a 2.4, Roger.
Oh, Roger, yeah. But it shows up, you know, to be a little bit fuller than that. And sounds good. I know it would sound even better if I opened up my receive bandwidth, which I'm set right now at 2400 cycles. So, but I'm transmitting at my bandwidth is 100 low and 3K on the top. Although some guys on Flex said that I actually go a little bit below 100 cycles and slightly above 3K, but I don't know if that's true or not. But according to the radio, I've got basically 5 different choices on transmit bandwidth, and so I use the maximum bandwidth most of the time, unless some guy tells me, you know, you can't understand what I'm saying, and a lot of guys don't like my type of audio, although if they're listening at 24, 2,400 cycles, they're going to miss a lot of my audio. But some guys are, you know, listening at it wider than that, and they're like, you know, you're wasting a lot of watts because you got a lot of low frequency. And so what? That's kind of my attitude. I think I got enough power here with these amplifiers. I can afford to lose a few watts, over.
Oh, Roger, I wouldn't change a thing. Your low end is just perfect there. Nowhere near any muffling or nothing. It's just nice and clean, and you know, that's what you're looking for. So I guess I'm going to jump out of here. Appreciate the QS0, Tom. Really enjoyed it, and hopefully, you know, we've got a good recording of this, and we'll post it up there on YouTube. Roger.
Oh, Roger, yeah. Well, I certainly enjoyed it as well, Jim, and hopefully we'll get a chance to do it again. And you held up very, very well. So, boy, with the band being the way it is, a little bit of fire in the wire is a big help. Have a great day, Jim. Until the next time, King Charlie 9, Victor King Victor 73 from AE8O. Bye-bye.
Roger, Tom, just one thing. What is your location again, please?
Rio Rancho, New Mexico.
In the high desert at 5,200 feet above sea level. Over.
Rio Rancho, New Mexico.
Roger, that's two separate words. R-I-O, Rancho. QSL.
Roger, roger. Got it. Thank you, sir. You have a good day. 3 set away, and this is Kilo Charlie 9 Victor Kilo Victor, and we'll be clear.
Alrighty, 73, this is AE8O. I'm out of here.